What's up, YouTube? We back with another video, y'all. Bruh, it is cold as hell in my room. God damn.
We do not care.
But yeah, we coming back with another video today, y'all. It says you're not going to believe what Courage the Cowardly Dog was really about. I'm not gonna cap. This used to be my show. I used to watch this all the time until that one clip of bro standing out in the desert, bro. I was like, what the fuck is this? So I'm actually really curious about what this really about. And without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into it.
Travelers, ready for another nostalgia trip back to the past?
Yes,
Hop
sir.
in, because in today's video, we're traveling back to the Courage the Cowardly Dog era.
Courage the Cowardly Dog Show!
If you remember the show, you know that Courage the Cowardly Dog was abandoned as a pup and found by Muriel, who lives in the middle of nowhere with her husband Eustace Bagge.
Yes, sir.
Courage and his relentless battle to keep his owners and family safe from evil monsters that plague that small area known as Nowhere is one that has always been
This
enjoyable
couldn't be
to
a
watch,
kid's show. There's
despite
no
its
way.
dark undertones. And in today's video, we're going to be talking about a theory that involves all of the monsters that Courage sees in the show as
Okay.
all figments of his imagination. And be sure to stick around till the end to find out why the show takes place in the middle of nowhere to begin with. As anyone who has seen the series will tell you, Courage the Cowardly Dog Show is really strange, and that's to
Yeah.
say the least. Throughout the show, we get to watch Courage, a dog who doesn't quite live up to his name, at least not until his family is in danger. Courage spends most of his days being tormented by monsters, aliens,
Whoa,
cryptids, and just
whoa,
downright
whoa.
terror.
Shawty was looking. Oh my god. Hold up. Shawty was looking. Ooh, hold up. God damn. Hey, yeah. Yeah, I ain't saying too much, but yeah.
911.
Officer, right there. Come on in, go.
Monsters, aliens,
Yeah.
cryptids,
Oh my
and
God.
just downright
Yeah.
terrifying people
She right,
that,
she
for
right.
some reason, always
God
find themselves on
damn.
Courage's farm in the
Fuck
middle
the
of
theory.
nowhere.
Fuck the
Whether these
theory at this
monsters are
point.
trying to actually cause him and his owners harm, or they're simply misunderstood, Courage always feels the need to stand up for and protect his owner. And despite being
That's a
less
real
than
dog.
courageous, as we mentioned a second ago, he always manages to pull himself together and jump headfirst into harm's way to protect his dear Muriel and her horrible, horrible husband.
Stupid dog.
One of the many questions that fans of the series often find themselves asking whenever they are watching the show is, why do all of these strange things happen to Courage, Muriel, and Eustace? I mean, there is
Facts.
seemingly
See, that-
no
that's
explanation
right
as to
there,
why
bruh.
all of these unnatural phenomena and terrifying creatures keep finding their way onto their farm. Or at least there was no explanation. Thanks to a fan community that is always on the hunt for good theories, we actually think that we have found a solid explanation as to why all of the wonky stuff is happening. The theory was created by a Reddit user by the name of Digadug492. The Redditor explained that
Digadug.
everything that we saw happen in the series was actually from the perspective of Courage, meaning that we saw the world as he was seeing it. And you have to remember, he's a very small and cowardly dog whose fear would likely drive his imagination to paint the world and the people in it as horrendous monsters who are wishing to cause nothing but harm, when in reality, almost none of what we
That actually makes sense. Like dogs always tripping. Like when the mailman comes around, and just anybody else that's not in their immediate family. Okay, this makes sense.
saw was actually going on. And I know this might seem a bit far-fetched, but when you look at the evidence, the theory is a super solid one that the show itself almost directly backs up. I mean, you don't even have to look past the intro.
We interrupt this program to...
When you take a look at the intro for Courage the Cowardly Dog Show, one of the first things that Courage gets fearful of is his own shadow, which, after staring at for a second, no longer looked like a shadow. Instead, it transformed into some sort of monstrous creature that then proceeded to scare the life out of our favorite pink puppy. Right away, this shows us that not only is Courage literally afraid of his own shadow, but if you take into consideration that it was in fact just his shadow, then you'll see that he has a very active imagination that tends to haunt and torment him. And
Okay.
considering the fact that we're seeing the world as he is imagining it to be, surely the show is animated from his perspective, and his mind simply over-exaggerates the things that terrify him, which is
See, there's no way. Like, this is too deep to be a kid's show. No kid is looking at this and like, dang, this gotta be his. Nobody's thinking like that. But like everything that was going on in this show, it does back it up. But I need a little bit more convincing. I need a little bit more.
everything. Toward the end of the intro, we also get a glimpse of how Courage can sometimes perceive humans and even his owner. At the end of the intro, we can see Eustace, the aggressive and lazy husband of Courage's beloved Muriel. And as usual, Eustace doesn't have time for Courage, and he takes his rage out on the poor pup by calling him a stupid dog and blaming him for making him look bad. He then proceeds to turn into a terrifying, goblin-looking monster and spooks Courage. This seems to prove that Courage can, and likely would, perceive anyone that he might think of as a threat as a real-life monster. I know what you're thinking too, but Eustace is clearly wearing a mask. We see him take it off after he scares Courage with it. Well, what if I told you that the mask was just how Courage's mind was connecting the fact that the monster could suddenly turn back into Eustace that he knew as his owner? I mean, if we're talking...
This is deep. This is deep. That's like, I ain't finna make it deeper than what it is, but that's like most people in reality. Like they just put on a mask and then they could change the next second. Gotta pee.
About it being realistic here, I don't think that it's very realistic for him to have been able to pull a giant mask out of thin air to scare his dog. What seems more realistic to me is the idea that whenever Eustace would get angry and begin yelling at Courage, Courage would begin to perceive him as a monster. But once he realized it was just Eustace, it was as if he was removing a mask. This sort of fearful imagination is what also led Courage into seeing everyday people as distorted and wicked monsters who were out to hurt his family, when in reality, most of the enemies that he interacted with were simply humans, just like his owners, who genuinely did not mean them any harm whatsoever. One thing that separated Courage the Cowardly Dog Show from almost any other cartoon on TV at the time was its terrifying and crazy looking villains, who were always...
Look at this nigga right here. What the fuck is this? God, hey, bruh, I ain't gonna count. This show was one weird ass show. Like, if you watch it from beginning to end, there's something about you we don't know about. You're different. No.
Around to terrorize Courage, whether it be a chicken from outer space or cavalry of ghost warriors who only come out when the windmill stops. There was no shortage of quirky antagonists to make each episode of Courage super interesting and very fun to watch. But one thing that I could never wrap my head around was why Muriel and Eustace never seemed concerned about their safety when they're things that could only...
Shit, I wouldn't be worried about safety either. Look at her. Hey, look at her. God.
Be described as monsters visiting their home frequently.
The hell? Yeah, I don't think I've seen
Well, if the antagonists in the show were only monsters because that's how Courage was perceiving them, it would make sense that Eustace and Muriel weren't on guard. In reality, it was most likely just normal people spending time with them, and Courage was simply a dog being protective of his owner. This could be due to the fact that Courage is a small-sized dog, and therefore is more likely to fear humans that he doesn't know, as they are much larger than he is, and he knows it. And believe me, this theory makes a whole lot of sense, even for some of the best villains that Courage had to face. For instance, the snowman that Courage has to save his family from on more than one occasion, though Courage might have viewed the situation as an evil snowman that is trying to preserve himself by capturing Muriel and Eustace so that he could harvest an anti-melting gene that is only found in humans. In reality, it is probably just a snowman. It most likely snowed in nowhere, something that Courage viewed as apocalyptic, and at the sight of a humanoid snow being, he bugged out, and his mind told him that the enemy was
Why
there.
he sound like that? He bugged out.
And it came in the form of a snowman that sounds like Sean Connery.
Create a new frozen home where I can keep cool thanks to my ingenious invention.
Yeah, I ain't never seen
Another
this
phenomenal
episode.
example would be the evil and cruel veterinarian. I mean, that one practically writes itself. I don't know a single dog that actually enjoys going
I
to
seen
the
this
vet.
one. This
No,
was a
instead
fire
they
episode,
quake
y'all.
in terror at the very mention of the visit. And with Courage's active imagination, a simple visit to the vet would be a visit to a house of horrors. To make things a bit sadder, you might remember that Courage blames the cruel
His
veterinarian for taking his dog's parents from him and sending them off into space. Well, that could have been rooted in reality as well. There is a chance, and it's horrible, but a chance that Courage's mother gave birth to the litter of puppies, and its owner didn't want any of them, so she left them all at the vet. And to protect his mind from the thought of being abandoned, he instead began to believe that the evil vet had taken them away from him, and that it was all his fault, when in reality, it was likely the fault of whoever owned Courage's mother. Almost every antagonist that we ever met throughout the series could easily be explained as simply being human or simply inanimate objects that scared the poor dog. All it would take is for Courage Courage to have had an active imagination, which, as I said before, we saw in the intro to the show in every episode. Another question that could be answered by this very same theory is, why do Muriel and Eustace choose to live in the middle of nowhere, a seemingly barren wasteland with their dog Courage? Well, according to the show, the farm that the family lives on is located in a town known as Nowhere, Kansas, and it's a fictional town made up specifically for the show. But just because the town's name is Nowhere doesn't really mean that there is nothing and no one around. That just happens to be the name of the town. I mean, in the real world, in the United States, we have a town called Soda Springs in Idaho, and I've never been there, but I would bet a lot of money that there aren't actually springs that are flowing with carbonated sugary beverages.
I don't know. That look like some Sprite to me. Like some Mountain Dew or something. I had to go over there to taste it. Pause.
It's just a name. Just like Nowhere is just the name of the town that Courage calls his home. You might be wondering how we could possibly explain the fact that when Courage goes outside, or when they show the farm from the windows inside of the house, it looks like there is absolutely nothing around. Well, when you consider the age of his owners, and the fact that they likely don't go many places throughout the day, so that they don't expend their energy.
Where are they getting their groceries from? Like, that's one thing, like I live like in the South, and like there's places where you have to travel a good bit away just to get to a grocery store. It's ridiculous.
Courage's world was likely really small, so even though Courage thoroughly believes that he lives in the middle of nowhere, it only appears that way to him because he doesn't get to see much outside of his house and yard. It's not like that he would be going on walks around his neighborhood. He's likely just let outside to roam the small plot of land that they own, and then called back inside whenever Muriel beckoned. This isn't to say that Courage and his family don't go places though. I can recall a few episodes where the family ends up going on a trip that takes them to various places around the world. For instance, they go through New York City, Paris, and Sweden in a single episode titled Le Quack's Balloon. That episode also provides the perfect example of how Courage's mind distorts the world around him. When he travels to New York, you can tell right away that something looks off. The city and the state are seen from an abstract perspective, which is likely the way that Courage was actually seeing it. So who's to say that this isn't what's happening with the farm? And he just thinks they are literally in the middle of nowhere, when in reality, they live in the middle of a town called Nowhere that actually has a small population. It's hard to ignore all of the evidence when you really look at it. The idea that all of what we saw in the show was actually just being shown to us in the way that Courage was perceiving it, rather than what was really going on is a theory that can have a really big impact on how some people may view the show. But I think all of the evidence that backs it up gives it a lot of validity. But what about you guys? Do you think there's any truth to the theory? Or do you think that Courage truly does face dark enemies on a near daily basis? Be sure to let us know in the comments below. We'd love to hear from you. As for now,
yeah, see, now I'm finna make it deep. Also, if you made it this far in the video, thank you for watching. But I'm finna make it deep now. So look. So Courage look at the world like everything's bad. So look. Now I'm gonna take it this way, and I'm gonna bring it to reality. So look, if you look at the world as bad, then the world's gonna be bad. If you look at the world as good, then it's gonna be good. I mean, it's not gonna always be good, and it's not always gonna be bad. It's gonna be like little moments here and there, but most of the moments are gonna be bad if you look at the world as bad. Like, you gonna find more bad than good. But I'm gonna start preaching. Thank y'all for watching. Make sure you hit the like button, comment, subscribe, hit the post notification, and I'll see y'all in the next video.